Hello, let me start telling how you Hello, welcome to Everyday Storytelling. How are you doing today? We are going to be reading the Bible, and we are going to be reading Ben-Hur today.
Hello. Thank you for one person showing up. Okay, that's enough tickling. All right, it's okay when I'm doing it. It's not okay when somebody's doing it to me. Okay, all right. So now we are on chapter 18 of Judges, or did we read chapter 18? We read chapter 18, so we're on chapter 19 of Judges. And we will take a break tomorrow and the next night. We're going to be reading something more Christmassy. All right. And speaking of Christmas, here's our Christmas card that we got from Rebecca. Thank you, Rebecca. Hi. Thank you. There's 2 people on. We appreciate you. All right.
We appreciate you.
What he said. All right. Judges chapter 19. In those days, when there was no king in Israel, a certain Levite was sojourning in the remote parts of the hill country of Ephraim, who took to himself a concubine from Bethlehem in Judah. And his concubine was unfaithful to him, and she went away from him to her father's house at Bethlehem in Judah, and was there for some 4 months. Then her husband arose and went after her to speak kindly to her and bring her back. He had with him his servant and a couple of donkeys, and she brought him into her father's house. And when the girl's father saw him, he came with joy to meet him. And his father-in-law, the girl's father, made him stay, and he remained with him 3 days. So they ate and drank and spent the night there. And on the 4th day they arose early in the morning, and he prepared to go. But the girl's father said to his son-in-law, "Strengthen your heart with the morsel of bread, and after that you may go." So the 2 of them sat and ate and drank together. And the girl's father said to the man, "Be pleased to spend the night, and let your heart be merry." And when the man rose up to go, his father-in-law pressed him till he spent the night there also. And on the 5th day he arose early in the morning to depart. And the girl's father said, "Strengthen your heart and wait until the day declines." So they ate, both of them. And when the man and his concubine and his servant rose up to depart, his father-in-law, the girl's father, said to him, "Behold, now the day has waned toward evening. Please spend the night. Behold, the day draws to its close. Lodge here, and let your heart be merry, and tomorrow you shall arise early in the morning for your journey and go home." What are you doing? JJ.
I just want to sit here.
Okay. But the man would not spend the night. He rose up and departed and arrived opposite Jebus, that is Jerusalem. He had with him a couple of saddled donkeys, and his concubine was with him. When they were near Jebus, the day was nearly over, and the servant said to his master, "Come now, let us turn aside to this city of the Jebusites, and spend the night in it." And his master said to him, "We will not turn aside into the city of foreigners, who do not belong to the people of Israel, but we will pass on to Gibeah." And he said to his young man, "Come and let us draw near to one of these places, and spend the night at Gibeah or at Ramah." So they passed on and went their way, and the sun went down on them near Gibeah, which belongs to Benjamin. And they turned aside there to go in and spend the night at Gibeah. And he went in and sat down in the open square of the city, for no one took them into his house to spend the night. And behold, the old man was coming from his work in the field at evening, the man from the hill country of Ephraim, and he was sojourning in Gibeah. The men of the place were Benjaminites, and he lifted up his eyes and saw the traveler in the open square of the city. And the old man said, "Where are you going, and where do you come from?" And he said to him, "We are passing from Bethlehem in Judah to the remote parts of the hill country of Ephraim, from where I come. I went to Bethlehem in Judah, and I am going to the house of the Lord, but no one has taken me into his house. We have straw and feed for our donkeys, with bread and wine for me and your female servant, and the young man with your servants. There is no lack of anything." And the old man said, "Peace be to you. I will care for all your wants. Only do not spend the night in the square." So he brought him into his house and gave the donkeys feed, and they washed their feet and ate and drank. As they were making their hearts merry, behold, the men of the city, worthless fellows, surrounded the house, beating on the door. And they said to the old man, the master of the house, "Bring out the man who came into your house, that we may know him." And the man, the master of the house, went out to them and said to them, "No, my brothers, do not act so wickedly. Since this man has come into my house, do not do this vile thing. Behold, here are my virgin daughter and his concubine. Let me bring them out now. Violate them and do with them what seems good to you. But against this man do not do this outrageous thing." But the men would not listen to him, so the man seized his concubine and made her go out to them. And they knew her and abused her all night until the morning. And as the dawn began to break, they let her go. And as morning appeared, the woman came and fell down at the door of the man's house where her master was until it was light. And her master rose up in the morning, and when he opened the doors of the house and went out to go on his way, behold, there was his concubine lying at the door of the house with her hands on the threshold. He said to her, "Get up, let us be going." But there was no answer. Then he put her on the donkey, and the man rose up and went away to his home. And when he entered his house, he took a knife, and taking hold of his concubine, he divided her limb by limb into 12 pieces, and sent her throughout all the territory of Israel. And all who saw it said, "Such a thing has never happened or been seen from the day that the people of Israel came up out of the land of Egypt until this day. Consider it, take counsel, and speak." Now that is not a story that I've ever heard in Sunday school. However, it is in the book of Judges. And
a little bit of light bedtime reading?
yeah, a little bit of light bedtime reading. There we go. All right, so here is Ben-Hur. We have no synopsis because we have no idea what happened in the last 2 chapters. Actually, he went through the garden some more, and he saw the stadium, and that was about it. Yeah, so he was excited because of the 4s instead of the 2s. So the 4s, what he's talking about, it's not just 4 horses, it's 4 abreast. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4. So there's 4 horses in a row, not like 2 sets of 2, but actually 4 abreast, which is apparently, according to this book, very difficult to drive. And there was I think it was the 9th rider came out, and there was a lot of pomp and stuff when he came out. And when he got close enough, he recognized that it was Masala, who of course was the boy from the very beginning of the story that was so nice to him when he found out, when he came back from Rome, and Ben-Hur said, "Hey, listen, I know that you learned all that Roman mythology stuff, but I mean, I'm a Jew, and you should respect my religion." And this is the same Masala that said, "Oh yes, I know you're a Jew. I do respect your religion because you're awesome, and your God is awesome, and all the Roman gods are not awesome." Okay, maybe he didn't say all that. Okay, Mom says I'm fired. But anyway, yes, it's the same Masala that like basically made fun of him because he was a Jew. All right. So, okay, so Kimmy says I'm fired all the way to the moon. Mom says I'm fired. So put in your comments what you think I should do as regards to how I misrepresent the stories when I do the synopsis. And maybe we should have our normal synopsis person back next time so that we can have a better representation of what's actually taking place in the book. So that's my idea, but I don't know for sure.
You do that even when I'm doing the synopsis. It's getting kind of annoying.
Oh, okay. Are you going to come back and listen?
I'm going to grab a paper plate so I can paint.
She's going to grab a paper plate. And I thought that I had my water here, but I don't. So I will not drink any water. So this is chapter 8, The Fountain of Castalia. Chapter 8. And there's a really great picture of the chariot right there on the bottom of the last page. The pages, by the way, they're really pretty. Like there's like little pictures on basically all of the pages in the margins. It's really nice. But it's too many to really highlight for a video. So, all right. The Fountain of Castalia, Chapter 8. As Ben-Hur descended the steps of the stand, an Arab arose upon the last one at the foot and cried out, "Men of the east and west, hearken! The good Sheik Ilderim giveth greeting. With 4 horses, sons of the favorite of Solomon the Wise, he hath come up against the best. Needs he most a mighty man to drive them. Whoso will take them to his satisfaction, to him he promiseth enrichment forever. Here, there, in the city, and in the circuses, and wherever the strong most do congregate, tell ye this his offer. So saith my master, Sheik Ilderim the generous." The proclamation awakened a great buzz among the people under the awning. By night it would be repeated and discussed in all the sporting circles of Antioch. Ben-Hur, hearing it, stopped and looked hesitatingly from the herald to the sheik. Malak thought he was about to accept the offer, but was relieved when he presently turned to him and said, "Good Malak, where to now?" The worthy replied with a laugh, "Would you liken yourself to others visiting the grove for the first time? You will straightway to hear your fortune told." "My fortune," said you, though the suggestion has in it a flavor of unbelief. "Let us go to the goddess at once." "Nay, son of Arius, these Apollonians have a better trick than that. Instead of speech with a Pythia or a Sibyl, they will sell you a plain papyrus leaf, hardly dry from the stalk, and bid you dip it in water with a certain fountain, when it will show you a verse in which you may hear of your fortune." The glow of interest departed from Ben-Hur's face. "There are people who have no need to vex themselves about their future," he said gloomily. "Then you prefer to go to the temples?" "The temples are Greek, are they not?" "They call them Greek." "The Hellenes were masters of the beautiful in art, but in architecture they sacrificed variety to unbending beauty. Their temples are all alike. How call you the fountain?" "Castalia." "Oh, it has a repute throughout the world. Let us thither." Malak kept watch on his companion as they went, and saw that for the moment at least his good spirits were out. To the people passing he gave no attention over the wonders they came upon, where there were no exclamations. Silently, even sullenly, he kept a slow pace. The truth was, the sight of Messala had set Ben-Hur to thinking. It seemed scarce an hour ago that the strong hands had torn him from his mother, scarce an hour ago that the Roman had put seal upon the gates of his father's house. He recounted how, in the hopeless misery of the life, if such it might be called, in the galleys, he had had little else to do aside from labor than dream dreams of vengeance, in all of which Messala was the principal. There might be, he used to say to himself, escape for gratus, but for Messala, never. And to strengthen and harden his resolution, he was accustomed to repeat over and over, "Who pointed us out to the persecutors? And when I begged him for help, not for myself, who mocked me and went away laughing? And always the dream had the same ending. The day I meet him, help me. Thou, good God of my people, help me to some fitting special vengeance." And now the meeting was at hand. Perhaps if he had found Messala poor and suffering, Ben-Hur's feeling had been different. But it was not so. He found him more than prosperous. In the prosperity there was a dash and a gleam of sun on gilt of gold. So it happened that what Malach accounted a passing loss of spirit was pondering when the meeting should be, and in what manner he could make it most memorable. They turned after a while into an avenue of oaks, where the people were going and coming in groups, footmen here and horsemen, their women in litters borne by slaves, and now and then chariots rolled by thunderously. At the end of the avenue, the road by an easy grade descended into a lowland, where on the right hand there was a precipitous facing of grey rock, and on the left an open meadow of vernal freshness. Then they came in view of the famous fountain of Castalia. Edging through a company assembled at the point, Ben-Hur beheld a jet of sweet water pouring from the crest of a stone into a basin of black marble, where after much boiling and foaming it disappeared as through a funnel. By the basin, under a small portico cut into the solid wall, sat a priest, old, bearded, wrinkled, cowled, never being more perfectly eremitish. From the manner of the people present, hardly might one say which was the attraction, the fountain forever sparkling, or the priest forever there. He heard, saw, was seen, but never spoke. Occasionally a visitor extended a hand to him with a coin in it. With a cunning twinkle of the eye, he took the money and gave the party in exchange a leaf of papyrus. The receiver made haste to plunge the papyrus into the basin. Then, holding the dripping leaf in the sunlight, he would reward with a versified inscription upon its face, and the fame of the fountain seldom suffered loss by poverty of merit in the poetry. Before Ben-Hur could test the oracle, some other visitors were seen approaching across the meadow, and their appearance piqued the curiosity of the company, his not less than theirs. He saw first a camel, very tall and very white, in leading of a driver on horseback. A houdah on the animal, besides being unusually large, was of crimson and gold. 2 other horsemen followed the camel with tall spears in hand. "What a wonderful camel," said one of the company. "A prince from afar," another one suggested. "More likely a king." "If he were on an elephant, I would say he was a king." A third man had a very different opinion. "A camel, and a white camel," he said authoritatively. "By Apollo, friends, they who come yonder, you can see there are 2 of them, are neither kings nor princes. They are women." In the midst of the dispute, the strangers arrived. The camel, seen at hand, did not belie his appearance afar. A taller, statelier brute of his kind, no traveller at the fountain, though from the remotest parts, had ever beheld. Such great black eyes, such exceedingly fine white hair, feet so contractile when raised, so soundless in planting, so broad when set. Nobody had ever seen the peer of this camel, and how well he became his housing of silk, and all its frippery of gold in fringe and gold in tassel. The tinkling of silver bells went before him, and he moved lightly as if unknowing of his burden. But who were the man and the woman under the houdah? Every eye saluted them with the inquiry. If the former were a prince or a king, the philosophers of the crowd might not deny the impartiality of time. When they saw the thin, shrunken face buried under an immense turban, the skin of the hue of a mummy, making it impossible to form an idea of his nationality. They were pleased to think the limit of life was for the great as well as the small. They saw about his person nothing so enviable as the shawl which draped him. The woman was seated in the manner of the East, amidst veils and laces of surpassing fineness. Above her elbows she wore armlets fashioned like coiled asps, and linked to bracelets at the wrists by strands of gold. Otherwise the arms were bare and of singular natural grace, complemented with hands modelled daintily as a child's. One of the hands rested upon the side of the carriage, showing tapered fingers glittering with rings, and stained at the tips till they blushed like the pink of mother of pearl. She wore an open caul upon her head, sprinkled with beads of coral and strung with coin pieces called sunlets, some of which were carried across her forehead, while others fell down her back, half smothered in the mass of her straight blue-black hair, of itself an incomparable ornament, not needing the veil which covered it, except as a protection against sun and dust. From her elevated seat she looked upon the people calmly, pleasantly, and apparently so intent upon studying them as to be unconscious of the interest she herself was exciting, and what was unusual, nay, in violent contravention of the custom among women of rank in public, she looked at them with an open face. It was a fair face to see, quite youthful in form, oval complexion, not white, not like the Greek, not brunette like the Roman, nor blonde like the Gaul, but rather the tinting of the sun of the upper Nile upon a skin of such transparency that the blonde shone through it on cheek and brow with nigh the ruddiness of lamplight. The eyes, naturally large, were touched along the lids with the black paint immemorial throughout the East. The lips were slightly parted, disclosing through their scarlet lake teeth of glistening whiteness. To all these excellences of countenance the reader is finally besought to superadd the air derived from the pose of a small head, classic in shape, set upon a neck long, drooping, and graceful, the air, we may fancy, happily described by the word queenly. As if satisfied with the survey of people and locality, the fair creature spoke to the driver, an Ethiopian of vast brawn, naked to the waist, who led the camel nearer the fountain and caused it to kneel, after which he received from her hand a cup and proceeded to fill it at the basin. That instant the sound of wheels and the trampling of horses in rapid motion broke the silence her beauty had imposed, and with a great outcry the bystanders parted in every direction, hurrying to get away. The Romans had a mind to ride us down. "Look out!" Malak shouted to Ben-Hur, setting him at the same time an example of hasty flight. The latter faced in the direction the sounds came from, and beheld Messala in his chariot pushing the four straight at the crowd. This time the view was near and distinct. The parting of the company uncovered the camel, which might have been more agile than his kind generally, yet the hoofs were almost upon him, and he, resting with closed eyes, chewing the endless cud with such sense of security as long favoritism may be supposed to have bred in him. The Ethiopian wrung his hands afraid. In the Huda, the old man moved to escape, but he was hampered with age, and could not, even in the face of danger, forget the dignity which was plainly his habit. It was too late for the woman to save herself. Ben-Hur stood nearest them, and he called to Messala, "Hold! Look where thou goest! Back! Back!" The patrician was laughing in hearty good humor, and, seeing there was but one chance of rescue, Ben-Hur stepped in and caught the bits of the left yoke steed and his mate. "Dog of a Roman, carest thou so little for life?" he cried, putting forth all his strength. The two horses reared and drew the others around. The tilting of the pole tilted the chariot. Messala barely escaped a fall, while his complacent Myrtilus rolled back like a clod to the ground. Seeing the peril past, all the bystanders burst into derisive laughter. The matchless audacity of the Roman then manifested itself. Loosing the lines from his body, he tossed them to one side, dismounted, walked round the camel, looked at Ben-Hur, and spoke partly to the old man and partly to the woman. "Pardon, I pray you both. I am Messala," he said, "and by the old mother of the earth, I swear I did not see you or your camel. As to these good people, perhaps I trusted too much to my skill. I sought to laugh at them. The laugh is theirs. Good may it do them." So he just said that he couldn't see the camel that was like the most obvious thing that was on the street.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So I just want to make sure everybody caught that. Like, they just spent the last 3 pages telling us how obvious that camel was. And then Messala says, "Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see it. Didn't see you there." The good-natured, careless look and gesture he threw the bystanders accorded well with the speech. To hear what more he had to say, they became quiet. Assured of victory over the body of the offended, he signed his companion to take the chariot to a safer distance, and addressed himself boldly to the woman. "Thou hast interest in the good man here, whose pardon, if not granted now, I shall seek with the greater diligence hereafter. His daughter, I should say." She made him no reply. "By Pallas, thou art beautiful. Beware, Apollo. Mistake thee not for his lost love. I wonder what land can boast herself thy mother. Turn not away. A truce! A truce! There is the sun of India in thine eyes, in the corners of thy mouth. Egypt has set her love signs. Propole! Turn not to that slave, fair mistress, before proving merciful to this one. Tell me at least that I am pardoned." At this point she broke in upon him. "Wilt thou come here?" she asked, smiling, and with gracious bend of the head to Ben-Hur. "Take the cup and fill it, I pray thee," she said to the latter. "My father is thirsty." "I am thy most willing servant." Ben-Hur turned about to do the favor, and was face to face with Messala. Their glances met, the Jews defiant, the Romans sparkling with humor. "O stranger, beautiful as cruel," Messala said, waving his hand to her, "if Apollo get thee not, thou shalt see me again. Not knowing thy country, I cannot name a god to command thee to. So by all the gods I will commend thee to myself." Seeing that Myrtilus had the 4 composed and ready, he returned to the chariot. The woman looked after him as he moved away, and whatever else there was in her look, there was no displeasure. Presently she received the water. Her father drank. Then she raised the cup to her lips, and leaning down gave it to Ben-Hur. Never action more graceful and gracious. "Keep it, we pray of thee. It is full of blessings, all thine." Immediately the camel was aroused and on his feet and about to go, when the old man called, "Stand thou here." Ben-Hur went to him respectfully. "Thou hast served the stranger well today. There is but one God. In his holy name I thank thee. I am Balthazar, the Egyptian. In the great orchard of palms beyond the village of Daphne, in the shade of the palms, Sheik Ilderim the generous abideth in his tents, and we are his guests. Seek us there. Thou shalt have welcome sweet with the savor of the grateful." Ben-Hur was left in wonder at the old man's clear voice and reverend manner. As he gazed after the 2 departing, he caught sight of Messala, going as he had come, joyous, indifferent, and with a mocking laugh. So I don't know if anybody recognized Balthazar the Egyptian.
He's the wise man, isn't he? The Egyptian one?
He was the first of the three wise men that we
And
met in
also-
book 1.
Also,
Please don't move that.
Balthazar Bucks.
No, not that Balthazar.
Bucks.
Okay. So, no, we're not doing any conspiracy theories with all these books having some kind of a connected theme. They're all separate. All right. So, except for the ones that are intended to be the same, such as the Dragon Song books and the Narnia books and such and such. All right. So, chapter 9. The chariot race discussed. As a rule, there is no surer way to the dislike of men than to behave well where they may have behaved badly. In this instance, happily, Malak was an exception to the rule. The affair he had just witnessed raised Ben-Hur in his estimation, since he could not deny him courage and address. Could he now get some insight into the young man's history, the results of the day would not be all unprofitable to good Master Simonidus. On the latter point, referring to what he had as yet learned, 2 facts comprehended it all. The subject of his investigation was a Jew, and the adopted son of a famous Roman. Another conclusion, which might be of importance, was beginning to formulate itself in the shrewd mind of the emissary. Between Messala and the son of the Duumvir, there was a connection of some kind. But what was it, and how could it be reduced to assurance? With all his sounding, the ways and means of solution were not at call. In the heat of the perplexity, Ben-Hur himself came to his help. He laid his hand on Malak's arm and drew him out of the crowd, which was already going back to its interest in the gray old priest and the mystic fountain. "Good Malak," he said, stopping, "may a man forget his mother?" The question was abrupt and without direction, and therefore of the kind which leaves the person addressed in a state of confusion. Malak looked into Ben-Hur's face for a hint of meaning, but saw instead 2 bright red spots, one on each cheek, and in his eyes traces of what might have been repressed tears. Then he answered mechanically, "No," adding with fervor, "Never." And a moment after, when he began to recover himself, "If he is an Israelite, never." And when at length he was completely recovered, "My first lesson in the synagogue was the Shema. My next was the saying of the son of Sirach, 'Honor thy father with thy whole soul, and forget not the sorrows of thy mother.'" The red spots on Ben-Hur's face deepened. "The words bring my childhood back again, and Malak, they prove you a genuine Jew. I believe I can trust you." Ben-Hur let go the arm he was holding, and caught the folds of the gown covering his own breast, and pressed them close, as if to smother a pain, or a feeling there as sharp as pain. "My father," he said, "bore a good name, and was not without honor in Jerusalem where he dwelt. My mother at his death was in the prime of womanhood, and it is not enough to say of her, 'She was good and beautiful. In her tongue was the law of kindness, and her works were the praise of all in the gates, and she smiled at days to come.' I had a little sister, and she and I were the family, and we were so happy that I, at least, have never seen harm in the saying of the old rabbi, 'God could not be everywhere, and therefore he made mothers.' One day an accident happened to a Roman in authority, as he was riding past our house at the head of a cohort. The legionaries burst the gate and rushed in and seized us. I have not seen my mother or sister since. I cannot say they are dead or living. I do not know what became of them, but Malak, the man in the chariot yonder, was present at the separation. He gave us over to the captors. He heard my mother's prayer for her children, and he laughed when they dragged her away. Hardly may one say which graves deepest in memory, love or hate. Today I knew him afar, and Malak," he caught the listener's arm again, "and Malak, he knows and takes with him now the secret I would give my life for. He could tell if she lives, and where she is, and her condition, if she, no, they. Much sorrow has made the two as one. If they are dead, he could tell where they died, and of what, and where their bones await my finding. And will he not? No. Why? I am a Jew, and he is a Roman. But Romans have tongues, and Jews, though ever so despised, have methods to beguile them. For such as he? No. And besides, the secret is one of state. All my father's property was confiscated and divided. Malak nodded his head slowly, much as to admit the argument. Then he added anew, Did he not recognize you? He could not. I was sent to death in life, and have been long since accounted of the dead. I wonder you did not strike him, said Malak, yielding to a touch of passion. That would have been to put him past serving me forever. I would have had to kill him, and death, you know, keeps secrets better even than a guilty Roman. The man who, with so much to avenge, could so calmly put such an opportunity aside must be confident of his future, or have ready some better design. And Malak's interest changed with the thought. It ceased to be that of an emissary in duty bound to another. Ben-Hur was actually asserting a claim upon him for his own sake. In other words, Malak was preparing to serve him with good heart and from downright admiration. After brief pause, Ben-Hur resumed speaking. I would not take his life, good Malak. Against that extreme, the possession of the secret is, for the present at least, his safeguard. Yet I may punish him, and so you give me help. I will try. He is a Roman, said Malak without hesitation, and I am of the tribe of Judah. I will help you. If you choose, put me under oath, under the most solemn oath. Give me your hand. That will suffice. As their hands fell apart, Ben-Hur said with lightened feeling, That I would charge you with is not difficult, good friend, neither is it dreadful to conscience. Let us move on. They took the road which led to the right across the meadow spoken of in the description of the coming to the fountain. Ben-Hur was the first to break the silence. Do you know the Sheikh Ilderim the Generous? Yes. Where is his orchard of palms, or rather, Malak, how far is it beyond the village of Daphne? Malak was touched by a doubt. He recalled the prettiness of the favor shown him by the woman at the fountain, and wondered if he who had the sorrows of a mother in mind was about to forget them for a lure of love. Yet he replied, The orchard of palms lies beyond the village 2 hours by horse, and 1 by a swift camel. Thank you. And to your knowledge, once more, have the games of which you told me been widely published, and when will they take place? The questions were suggestive, and if they did not restore Malak his confidence, they at least stimulated his curiosity. Oh, yes, they will be of ample splendor. The prefect is rich, and could afford to lose his place. Yet, as is the way with successful men, his love of riches is nowise diminished, and to gain a friend at court is nothing more. He must make ado for the consul Maxentius, who is coming hither to make final preparations for the campaign against the Parthians. The money there is in the preparations the citizens of Antioch know from experience, so they have had permission to join the prefect in the honors intended for the great man. A month ago, heralds went to the 4 quarters to proclaim the opening of the circus for the celebration. The name of the prefect would be of itself good guarantee of variety and magnificence, particularly through the east. But when to his promises Antioch joins hers, all the islands and the cities by the sea stand assured of the extraordinary, and will be here in person or by their most famous professionals. The fees offered are royal. And the circus? I have heard it is second only to the maximum. At Rome, you mean? Well, ours seats 200,000 people. Yours seats 75,000 more. Yours is of marble, so is ours. In an arrangement they are exactly alike. Are the rules the same? Malak smiled. If Antioch dared be original, son of Arius, Rome would not be the mistress she is. The laws of the Circus Maximus govern except in one particular. There but 4 chariots may start at once. Here all start without reference to number. That is the practice of the Greeks, said Ben-Hur. Yes, Antioch is more Greek than Roman. So then, Malak, I may choose my own chariot? Your own chariot and horses. There is no restriction upon either. While replying, Malak observed the thoughtful look on Ben-Hur's face give place to one of satisfaction. One thing more now, O Malak. When will the celebration be? Ah, your pardon, the other answered. Tomorrow, and the next day, he said, counting aloud. Then, to speak in the Roman style, if the sea gods be propitious, the consul arrives. Yes, the 6th day from this we have the games. The time is short, Malak, but it is enough. The last words were spoken decisively by the prophets of our old Israel. I will take to the reins again. Stay. A condition is their assurance that Messala will be a competitor. A condition. Is there assurance that Messala will be a competitor? Malak saw now the plan and all its opportunities for the humiliation of the Roman, and he had not been true descendant of Jacob if, with all his interest awakened, he had not rushed to a consideration of the chances. His voice actually trembled as he said, Have you the practice? Fear not, my friend. The winners in the Circus Maximus have held their crowns these 3 years at my will. Ask them. Ask the best of them, and they will tell you so. In the last great games, the emperor himself offered me his patronage if I would take his horses in hand and run them against the entries of the world. But you did not? Malak spoke eagerly. I am a Jew. Ben-Hur seemed shrinking within himself as he spoke, and though I wear a Roman name, I dared not do professionally a thing to sully my father's name in the cloisters and courts of the temple. In the palaestra I could indulge practice, which, if followed into the circus, would become an abomination. And if I take to the course here, Malak, I swear it will not be for the prize or the winner's fee. Hold, swear not so, cried Malak. The fee is 10,000 sestertii, a fortune for life. Not for me, though the prefect trebled it 50 times, better than that, better than all the imperial revenues from the first year of the first Caesar. I will make this race to humble my enemy. Vengeance is permitted by the law. Malak smiled and nodded as if saying, Right. Trust me, a Jew to understand a Jew. The Messala will drive, he said directly. He is committed to the race in many ways, by publication in the streets, and in the baths, and the theatres, the palace, and the barracks, and, to fix him past retreat, his name is on the tablets of every young spendthrift in Antioch. In wager, Malak? Yes, in wager, and every day he comes ostentatiously to practice, as you saw him. Ah, and that is the chariot, and those the horses with which he will make the race? Thank you, Malak. You have served me well already. I am satisfied. Now, be my guide to the Orchard of Palms, and give me introduction to the Sheikh Ilderim the Generous. When? Today. His horses may be engaged tomorrow. You like them, then? Ben-Hur answered with animation. I saw them from the stand an instant only, for Messala then drove up, and I might not look at anything else. Yet I recognize them as of the blood, which is the wonder as well as the glory of the deserts. I never saw the kind before, except in the stables of Caesar. But once seen, they are always to be known. Tomorrow, upon meeting, I will know you, Malak, though you do not so much as salute me. I will know you by your face, by your form, by your manner, and by the same signs I will know them, and with the same certainty. If all that is said of them be true, and I can bring their spirit under control of mine, I can, when the sestertii said Malak, laughing. No, answered Ben-Hur as quickly. I will do what better becomes a man born to the heritage of Jacob. I will humble mine enemy in a most public place. But, he added impatiently, we are losing time. How can we most quickly reach the tents of the sheik? Malak took a moment for reflection. It is best if we go straight to the village, which is fortunately nearby. If 2 swift camels are to be had for hire there, we will be on the road but an hour. Let us about it then. The village was an assemblage of palaces in beautiful gardens, interspersed with khans of princely sort. Dromedaries were happily secured, and upon them the journey to the famous Orchard of Palms was begun. That's where we'll stop for tonight. Chapter 10 is called Ben-Hur Hears of the Christ, and the first word is beyond. And that's where we will stop tonight. I hope you're enjoying the story. Ninnies. I don't know what ninnies. Okay, so that was me trying to phonetically pronounce something that was written out. So, okay. All right. I hope everybody's having a good night. I hope to see you again tomorrow. And we will wish you adieu and enjoy the story. All right. Good night, guys.